Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. First, I'm just going to introduce the team, and that's about all I'm going to do as far as intros and everything else. And then we're going to get straight to the meat of the webinar. So Joe Courtney, my right-hand man there, he's in the chat. He's here today. He runs a strength track and a lot of behind the scenes. Ashley runs the women's health track and is our head coach there. Also very helpful and behind the scenes. See my right hand. If Joe is my right-hand man, she's my right-hand woman. And then we have Kyle Schrum, head coach here and running the CTE track, our coaching group. VD runs a shred track. We call him the shred track architect, Marco Rosa. He is in charge of Endure. Then we have Trampus, however you want to say his last name, or Travis even, however you want to say his first name, who's in charge of our merchandise, which you guys should definitely check out at garagegymathlete.com. And then there's me. I'm the one presenting today. I'm CEO and founder of Endof3 Fitness, creator, Garage Gym Athlete, and the programming methodology that we're going to be coming over today has been created day by day, year by year, little by little, just getting feedback from athletes, making it better, reading a scientific study, application, refinement, over and over again. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. And let's get into it. So let's start with the lies. All right, the lies. Number one, be hardcore. I know that you all see it everywhere, and I'm going to be referring a lot to social media today because I feel like that's the majority of where the fitness industry lives today. It's just, that's where it's at. You know, back in the day, I think it was the muscle mags and the men's fitness and all that crap. And I don't even know if people read magazines anymore. So it really has just transitioned now to Instagram posts where you see people, sleeping 3 hours and then, doing a 29-mile run with a rucksack. And these are the things that maybe you should do, right? Be hardcore, because that's the answer, right? Be as hardcore as you possibly can. Let's forget about sleep. Let's go high intensity all the time. Let's just crush it every single day, because that is how you can be better. And that's how you will see results. That's the lie, people. Being hardcore is the lie. All this does is run you into the ground over and over again. You are not these people. We cannot be hardcore like that and live an optimal life. We can live a life where we're crushed, where our hormones are suffering, where we're not sleeping, where we're awful to our family. We can be hardcore and try and go to work and be the best employee that we can, but you can't do it. These anomalies you see around social media, that's what they are. They're anomalies. They're not what we should strive to be. So that's the number one lie I see. And I don't know why it's so praised in our culture, this hardcore mentality. The problem it creates for athletes, what I see is a very simple one, and it's too much too soon. To put that in the most simple format I can, too much too soon. People get fired up when they see these hardcore athletes. They think it's awesome. Like, look at this guy, look at this girl. You see what they're doing? And then you want a piece of that. And then you take on too much too soon. Your true potential is something I'm going to be talking about a lot today. I want everyone to get to their true potential. I don't want you to get to where I'm at, or where Joe's at, or where Ashley's at, or where your friend is at, or where this person, influencer you see on Instagram, where they're at. I don't want you any of those places. Where I want you at is your true potential. I think only you know what that is. There's no comparison to anyone else when we're talking about your true potential. So I don't have some ideal for you. I don't have some status of perfection that I think you should go after. But you should always be striving for your true potential. And that's going to be a theme throughout the rest of this webinar. So here's what happens to athletes. They get this hardcore mentality and they take on too much too soon. And it doesn't matter what it is. Maybe they're shortcutting their sleep to wake up earlier because they've been told that that's the answer, that's the way, that's the path. Hey, maybe there's some truth to that, but maybe shortcutting your sleep down to 4 hours is slowly killing you. Or maybe you're jumping onto a program that absolutely was not made for you. Too much volume, too much intensity, too many movement patterns you're unfamiliar with. Either way, you're doing too much too soon. It's not properly progressed, and you've done too much too soon. What happens then? You get injured. This happens to athletes over and over. I can't tell you how many athletes I've seen who want to try a strength program that they shouldn't be doing. They do it for a couple of weeks, maybe a couple months, then they're injured, and boom. What happens after injury? Recovery. Some people actually go into a decent recovery period where they're still doing other things. A lot of people, this is kind of where they fall off the wagon. Their fitness suffers significantly during this recovery phase. They do it again. They do it again. And it just happens over and over again. When you try and adopt this hardcore mentality that doesn't lead you anywhere, this is the pattern, the cycle that you go through. Too much too soon, injury, a couple of steps backwards, recovery. Okay, no, this I'm going to be hardcore again. I can do it. I can do it differently this time. Injury, recovery, too much too soon. So ultimately, this is your potential. This is where you will always be when you follow this pattern. You're never going to get to the next level here. And a lot of today, obviously, being a fitness company, I'm going to be talking about where this puts your potential as an athlete. And a little bit when I talk more about killing comfort, I'm going to be talking about you as a human being. But I want you to put this in the lens for every lie that I'm talking about. Because when you try to do things beyond your level and you do not achieve over and over and over again, you're setting a new standard, a new top end for yourself. When if you were to progress and go about things the right way, you would be better. And I'm talking about that in every area of your life, not just fitness. But it's absolutely true in fitness. It's way more scientific in fitness. It's way more easy to spot in fitness. But this is what I see a lot of our athletes, this cycle they go through over and over and over again. Number 2, consistency is all that matters. You're like, wait, what are you talking about, Jerred? You talk about consistency all the time. Like you don't have to be perfect. Just put in the work, put in some work, do something every day. And absolutely, that is true. Consistency does matter, but it's not all that matters when we're trying to get you to your true potential. Because what kind of consistency? That's a very important question for you to answer. What kind of consistency? Consistency in randomness, which is most internet programming. Consistency in randomness will mean you never look how you want to look or feel how you want to feel. You're doing that program that you thought was the answer, but it's a randomized WOD generator, basically. And you're never going to have the body that looks like those CrossFit athletes because they're training 9 times a day. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And you're never going to look like that. You're never going to feel healthy, which is ultimately what you probably wanted in the first place. So consistency matters, but consistency and randomness is not getting you to your true potential or where you want to be. Consistency in high intensity is going to create a myriad of health problems. So we don't want that either. Consistency in pickles and ice cream programs is going to lead to frequent injury. And if you're not familiar with the pickles and ice cream programs, this is where you think that you can just throw together 2 different programs and it's going to work. But it's not. You can't just take some random strength program with random conditioning and expect that to work. You're going to go back to lie number one, where you're going to be cycling through over and over, too much too soon, injury, recovery. So yes, consistency matters, but the right consistency is what matters. And so it's this push and pull, right? They're the people that are too hardcore in the fitness industry. And I'm telling you we can't be like them. We can't. And then there's this other side that is a little too forgiving. All right? It's a little too, hey, just go for a 5-minute walk today. And let me be very clear. Movement every day is important. But again, I'm talking about your true potential, what I think you're capable of. There has to, at a minimum, be a standard for you. Not my standard. Again, not my standard. Not Joe's standard. Not Ashley's standard. There has to be a standard for you that you hold yourself to. Because I'm all about giving a person grace, being forgiving on yourself, being kind to yourself. But if you know you're capable of a lot more and you go on a 5-minute walk every day for the next 60 days, okay, consistency matters. You did the 5-minute walk. That's great. But what are we doing here? We're not moving forward anymore. You can only give yourself that grace for so long before you set a standard for yourself. And hey, maybe to begin with, for some people, that standard is 10 minutes. So you need to double that walking time. Or maybe it's 3 block, or maybe it's our body weight program. Maybe it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week, something. There has to be a standard for yourself. So yes, consistency matters, but it's not all that matters. It's the type of consistency that matters. And the type of consistency has to be a standard that you set for yourself. All right, let's get into lie number 3. And I've talked about this on the podcast. It's my most hated one. My blood boils a little bit even now as it pops up on the screen. You can be like me, just follow my program. This makes me want to die. This is the fitness industry. This is it. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, look at me, my shirt's off, I look great, you can do it too, just be me, follow my program. These are the exact workouts I do. You can be like me. No, we can't. We cannot be like them because we are us. We can't be like them. This is the worst thing that has ever happened to the fitness industry because it makes you think that an unachievable standard is possible. And I'm not saying that you can't have a 6-pack if you want a 6-pack. You absolutely can. But, huge but, is the way you get there the same way they got there or where they are now? If you're following their workouts that they're doing today, does that make any sense to you? So the problems that this creates, first, any idiot can work out 4 hours a day and see results. Just think about that for a second. Any professional athlete that you see or person with something you want on Instagram, and they're working out 2-3 times a day, 4 or 5, 6 times a day, and they look great, congratulations. Any idiot can work out 4 hours a day and see results. I don't have 4 hours a day to work out and see results. I have a company to run. I have a family to support, soccer games. I have a lot of things that I do in my life, and I'm not spending 4 hours a day training. It's not a priority for me. I like my 1 hour a day just fine. And I see results in 1 hour a day. Our athletes see results in 1 hour a day. Any idiot can work out 4 hours a day and see results. But the biggest issue, Be Like Mike programs cause are program hopping. And I really think this is like, we talk about program hopping all the time. Athletes program hop. It's kind of the ADD in the fitness world, right? But I think it comes from these Be Like Mike programs. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But I just want to see if you use this logic anywhere else in your life. I had to think of okay, let's just get outside the fitness industry for a second and think about things. Jeff Bezos has a $400 million yacht. Pretty awesome yacht. There's a picture of it right there on the screen. He has a $400 million yacht. Jeff Bezos started Amazon and got rich. I'll start Amazon and get a $400 million yacht. Do you use that logic? Are you going to start the next Amazon so you can buy a $400 million yacht? It's probably harder than that, right? There are other things that you have to do to be able to get there. There's a lot of Jeff Bezos' story that we probably don't know. Sacrificed relationships, backstabbing, scale problems, all these issues, sleepless nights. Like, there are things that we have no idea that even happened to be able to get there. But we can't just set out and be like, yeah, I'm going to start the next Amazon. Jeff Bezos is greater than the top 1%. You know, he's like number one, right, as far as wealth is concerned. And so you wouldn't even try. You wouldn't even be like, you know what? I do want to be like Jeff Bezos. That's such a crazy goal. Now, if any of you have that goal, that's great. I'm not going to be the person who tells you you can't do it. Go for it. Start the next Amazon. Buy the $400 million yacht. But you have to know what you're comparing yourself to is the top. And not even the top of the top. And it's the same with these people on social that you're seeing. These people are professional athletes in some cases. And however you want to put that, they could be professional physique athletes or actual professional athletes, fitness athletes. They're not just the top 1%. They're the top of the top. But for some reason, because they have a body and we have a body, we think, okay, yeah, I can be like them. I'm just going to follow their program. It doesn't work like that. It took 20 years of hard work, the right choices, sacrifice, 20 plus years in a lot of cases for these people to do what they're able to do, to run how they're able to run, to lift what they're able to lift, to look how they look. 20 years of hard work, the right choices, and sacrifice. But they're publishing their workouts for a minimal fee. You can just follow their workouts and you'll be solid. How does that make any sense? If you threw me onto Jeff Bezos' yacht and they're like, all right, dude, we got bills to pay. And just so you know, the gas was $250,000. Can you please go ahead and give me that cash for the bill? Nope. I can't jump into Jeff Bezos' life and start managing it. You can't jump into these people's workouts and start seeing their results. You have to rewind 2 decades at a minimum to get there. It's the worst thing that ever happened to the fitness industry. And this is what it looks like for our athletes. There's your true potential. And here we go. We got the squirrel. Because the squirrel sees something and runs off. So you start with that guy's jacked program A. And then you're like, you know what? That's not working. I'm going to go to he or she has a six-pack program B. And then it's like, well, that's not working. Maybe I'll do the 2 time a day program I don't actually have time for, program C. I see that all over the internet. I think it's hilarious. Here's the AM and the PM workout. You know how many people have time for an AM and a PM workout? Like real people with jobs and families. Like, if you're fitting it in, congratulations. That's awesome. Like, good for you. But you know how many people can't realistically fit that in? And when they do, their life falls apart because they're no longer able to manage their household. They're no longer to get enough sleep to be able to recover from what they're doing. Oh, and then you're like, oh, no. Maybe that program I tried at the beginning will work. That guy's jacked program A again. Let's try it again. Most athletes get smart for a certain amount of time. They start seeing a lot of results. 12 weeks of garage gym athlete. And then it comes. The Navy SEAL program D. That guy was a Navy SEAL. Of course, he knows the best workouts on the planet. You know why? Because he learned how to blow stuff up in basic underwater demolition school, right? Navy SEALs know everything about fitness. It's one of the schools they go through to become a Navy. Oh, no, it's not. They're trained warriors who know how to kill people. That's actually what they're experts in, killing other human beings. Even secondary to swimming, holding their breath, being tough, experiencing cold, killing other humans is their main job. They are warriors. If that offends anyone, I'm sorry. That's what American soldiers do. That's what Navy SEALs do. They're warriors. They're not fitness experts. Yes, they are mentally tough human beings. And maybe you would be just as mentally tough if you were tested how they've been tested. We won't know. But they in no way, anyone with military background has any sort of special fitness training. You'll always be here. Program hopping leads you nowhere. You'll never reach your true potential when you're constantly program hopping. So let's get into the truth. How do we cut through all this crap? How do we do it at Garage Gym Athlete? So let's go over how we create the most effective hour in the fitness industry and why you should never have FOMO on our tracks again. I'm really going to go behind the scenes here on our programming because no one else is doing this. Like, no one else is doing this. They spend more time on marketing, carrying a camera around, showing you their day-to-day life, you know, them taking a crap in the bathroom and like what they ate for breakfast. And that's what other people are doing. We spend most of our time doing what I'm about to show you. That's where we spend our time. So first, when we start programming, we apply the EO3 programming stack. And I'm going to go over each one of those. So first, we try and hit all these different areas when we're training at a wave. So a wave for us is 30 days. And we want to make sure that our athletes are really well-rounded. And so in order to be well-rounded, we came up with a lot of different areas we feel an athlete should train. Again, based off of experience, iteration, scientific studies, over and over again. We're constantly refining our approach, but this approach of these different areas has really held steady. So strength, we all know what strength is. There's a lot of different variations. Every single one of these things I'm going to go over, I could splinter out to probably 15 different methods or things that we could talk about, but I don't have that kind of time. So I'm just going to briefly go over each one. So strength, we all know what that is, getting stronger. Strength speed. This is the ability to move weight with speed. So dynamic efforts, you could think of power cleans. So you're moving a more moderate load quickly. Strength speed, it builds power, it builds explosiveness, and this is what makes you more athletic. Speed strength, very similar to strength speed. People often get them confused. Speed strength is moving a much lighter load faster. So think of like a wall ball shot. Something where there's a load and you are able to move that very, very quickly. So against resistance, but it's more about the speed and less about the load. But there's still a resistance element because lastly, there is speed. And speed could just be throwing a punch. It could be running as fast as you possibly can, a sprint. So that is speed. Is that all? No. We have muscle endurance. So muscle endurance, I think we're all aware of, being able to maximize our muscle contractions over and over and over again. Very important to have being a well-rounded athlete because a lot of our life, like daily tasks, are living this muscle endurance and oxidative pathway, which I'll talk about in just a second. Strength endurance, if you go back to strength speed, very similar. So muscle endurance, think if we were to be doing lunges, 7 minutes of walking lunges, something like we reprogram. That's muscle endurance. Strength endurance goes back to more moderate load for repetitions. So we're talking about 15 back squats with load. The things that really suck, but strength endurance, very, very different than muscle endurance, but also very important. Power endurance. So think of kettlebell snatches, something where you have to be powerful, but not just for 1 or 2 repetitions, for time even, 60 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes of being able to sustain power. This is where a lot of grit is built in athletes. Aerobic endurance. We're all aware of what aerobic endurance is. We actually have this listed technically 3 times in different ways in all the things I'm about to cover. So aerobic endurance, being able to run or move your body for long periods of time. Now we're going to go get into the energy systems. So gain, alactic, anaerobic without oxygen, just meaning short, powerful bursts. These can be 10 to 15 second sprints or just lifting weight. You know, the alactic is very much resistance training. If you're to do back squat, that's technically where you're at. Or if you're to be doing a short sprint. Pain, glycolytic, everyone's familiar with this, is about, a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes of an all-out awful effort. Very painful conditioning, but it trains a very necessary pathway that's needed, especially in like life or death situations. Sustain, going back, this is almost the same as aerobic endurance, but the reason we have it listed a second time is because we normally like to make those a little bit different. Because one way to hit aerobic endurance is just what you see us do a lot of times, zone 2. Let's go build that base of aerobic endurance. And so when I'm talking about aerobic endurance, that's a lot of what we mean, base building aerobic endurance. Now, when we jump down to sustain, we're thinking training. We're thinking of training. And so we're talking about 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off, all of these different types of things. Mixed modal aerobic. So again, you're going to see aerobic, but now we're doing work in an aerobic zone. So we're doing work in an aerobic zone. So this is mixed modal, meaning different modalities. So mixed modal, when we say mixed modal, people are starting to think of Metcons and CrossFit, right? And that's okay. But this is why also we get a little irritated if we're ever compared to CrossFit, because look how many we're into where we're even mentioning things that look like CrossFit. Mixed modal capacity. So we're talking about mixed modal aerobic. Then there's mixed modal anaerobic. So mixed modal aerobic would be like grunt work for like 40 minutes, 30 minutes. Mixed modal anaerobic is where we have different modalities. When I say different modalities, say there's a barbell involved, there's a double under involved, there's a pull up involved, and you're doing those. And we typically program with equal work to rest ratios, things like that, because we're in the aerobic zone. And then we get to mixed modal anaerobic. This is where we're developing power, but in the same mixed modality. So those mixed movements, but we're in the anaerobic zone. And every 30 days, our athletes see these modes. So this is not spread out over a year. This is not spread out over the 12 weeks. This is spread out over every 30-day wave that we complete in our programming. And we do this for multiple reasons. We found that's about the minimum that we are the maximum that you can spread these out. Because if you do spread them out over a year, you're going to start to lose in another area. And originally, when I was first developing the method, we kind of tried that, like, okay, we'll just hit all these areas over a year. But by the time you see muscle endurance in February and you don't see a lot of it again until, December, it's almost completely gone. So if you're hitting all of these areas every 30 days, we're slowly increasing each one. And that's what we want for our athletes. It's a slightly slower road than if you were to just focus all out on one of these things. But the only people who should focus all out on a single area, it would be a professional athlete, or it is required for your job. If you're not in that camp, we really think that you should be doing all of these areas. But if all we did was program these at random, the program would be lacking. Okay, so if you went back and maybe you're just here to learn and you want to write your own program, you're like, okay, I'm not sure how to write workouts for all these, but I'm going to take all these methods, and he said every 30 days, so I'm going to start doing that. Okay, yeah. Try it out. Because if all I did was that, our programs would be lacking. They wouldn't be very good. They'd be random. They wouldn't be that much better than the random workout WOD generators, glorified WOD generators that we see out there. So to layer the stack, we have a major. So a major is where we devote a very specific amount of time to one particular area, and the major is the focus for a 12-week cycle. So every 12 weeks in each in every single track that we have at Garage Gym Athlete, we have a major. So we're hitting these areas, but then we also have a major. And so the major is the focus, because if you did just do all those things, it might be decent general physical preparedness to hit all those different areas in 30 days, but then we wouldn't be moving any particular area forward. And so that's why we have a major, and we devote a very specific calculated amount of time to a major, and the major can be one of these. So if it was in 12 weeks, we were like, hey, we want on the Hard to Kill track this month, we want to emphasize strength, and we want to, well, I'll go over that in a second. Just say strength, and that was our major. We'll be focusing more on that. Or maybe it's power endurance this 12 weeks, something like that. And then we also have a minor, where we devote a very specific amount of time to one particular area. And mathematically, it's about half as much time as the major, and generally complementary to the major. And it could be a lot of different things. It could be strength and aerobic endurance, like strength as the major and aerobic endurance as the minor. But what we try to avoid, like those would still technically be complementary because they're just not contradictory with how they can be programmed. So we don't ever want to have a contradictory minor and major. So now you see how we're getting structure. Okay, so we have this, all these different areas that we're making sure our athletes hit every 30 days. But then over the 12 weeks, we're not losing sight of a very specific major and minor and a dedicated amount of time to each one of those things on a weekly basis for 12 weeks. So now we're gaining a lot of structure to the program. We're making sure people are well balanced. They're hitting enough time in the major and enough time in the minor to move forward where we want them to be move forward in. But if all we did was program the stack and the major and the minor, the program would still be lacking. Again, if you're a person here to learn, you're like, okay, 30 days, hit these different areas. Let's do a major. Let's do a minor. We'll focus on one area, a little bit less in another area, and we'll hit all the rest of the areas. The program would still be lacking. So to layer the stack and the major and the minor, we have body geometry, which I know a lot of our athletes are familiar with. This was implemented officially, I think it's been 2 years now. 2 years ago, body geometry we put into play because we're constantly learning, refining, getting feedback, making changes. We're not stagnant coaches who heard something once at a strength seminar that we apply. We're the ones teaching this to other coaches so they can be better coaches, and we're the ones using it on thousands of athletes every single day. So do we want to be the best possible thing that we could ever put out there? Absolutely. A lot of people are focused on having amazing YouTube videos. We're focused on having amazing programming for our athletes. So in body geometry, we interweave muscle contractions and movement patterns. We make sure there's the right ratio of 3 different types of muscle contractions. So there's concentric, eccentric, and isometric. If you listen to our recent webinar on tempo, we went over these things. We also have articles on it if you want to read more about it. But there are 3 types of different muscle contractions, and all 3 of them need to be trained. This almost does not happen, by the way, in the fitness industry unless they get lucky. Unless they get lucky. They do not train on purpose different muscle contractions. And then if they're doing this, I'm just blown away. If they're doing both of them, I would applaud them. Next, we make sure the athlete's seeing a frontal, sagittal, and transverse planes of movement. So we're hitting different muscle contractions in the right ratios, and then we're focusing on different planes of movement, because when you don't focus on, or you forget a plane of movement, this is where injury pops up. This is why someone can back squat 500 pounds and then hurt their back when they bend over in a weird, awkward way to pick up their kid's toy. That's how those things happen. They're following an improper program. They weren't focusing on the different planes of movement in the human body. And that's how those stupid injuries happen. Because you weren't doing what you're supposed to do. All right. But if all we did was program the stack and the major and the minor, balance out muscle contractions and planes of movement to reduce injury, the program would be effective. Okay. We would have a very effective program. If you wrote your own program right now, just following what I went over, and you were able to implement that, you would have an effective program, but lacking in efficiency. It wouldn't be an efficient program. Again, any idiot can work out for 4 hours a day and see results. Seriously, it's not very hard. So you could take everything I just said and write your own program and start with your 2-hour training sessions because you haven't learned how to make it efficient. You will. It takes a couple years. Lastly, we take all of that and we break it into blocks for our athletes. 5 blocks of training per day. 1 block equals 10 minutes. So we cram every bit of the effectiveness I've been going over, and then we make it efficient. That's the last phase here. So when I'm programming, when our coaches are programming, we're making sure all of these things are hit, that we have what we want, and then we have to start chunking it down into blocks. That's why I said the major and minor have very specific times allotted to them. There are block requirements for a major and a minor. You have to see this many blocks per week of a major. You have to see this many blocks per week for a minor. Everything else can be balanced out in those other areas that we mentioned. And now we're down to 5 blocks per day. This makes for a 1-hour training session for our athletes. 1-hour training session. 5 blocks of 10 minutes is 50 minutes. We do have we call it the ghost block, right? The invisible block. And that gives you your 10 minutes to change weights, to check these Instagram people, to do all the things that you need to do in between your sets that you might be doing. We make it efficient is the most important last step, because this is also what happens and causes program hopping. You get into that person's program who you thought was going to be awesome, and then you realize this training session is going to take me 2 hours. It's impossible for hours to do that, because you should either be time capping yourself at the blocks or fitting it into the blocks. Those are the only 2 options. So you should never train more than an hour with us. Yeah, it's possible, because sometimes we might give you more work that you're not ready for yet. And so you have to time cap yourself. The only time people go over an hour for us is they're not time capping themselves. And what happens if you stick to the blocks and the time caps, you learn how to move faster through the workout. You realize what a focused training session really is. And then you start to really see results. You start to understand the blocks and how this training works and how it really can move you forward. And you don't need to worry about any of this. Okay? I know I went over a lot. I went over a lot of stuff with the programming and its complexity. Some of you don't care. Some of you think that's awesome that I went into all those things, the different areas that we hit. But to be honest, if you're following the daily programming at Garage Gym Athlete, you don't need to worry about what is behind it, right? You don't. How the sausage is made is not as important, right? But what you need to do is follow 1 10-minute block at a time, like a GPS in your car, realizing what's been put into every single one of those blocks. Okay? That's all you need to do. That's why we're here. And that's why we charge money for a service. Because this is our craft. Yes, we podcast, we have YouTube videos, we do those things, but it's not our thing. It's not the thing that we want to be so good at. We want to be good at this. And we're really good at it. So all you need to do is follow 1 10-minute block at a time, and we will get you where you want to go. So for the upcoming cycles, I'm not going over the track briefs like I normally do, because I just went over what our programming does. So I'm briefly going to say, this is how easy it is to make a decision on which track you should be if you're going to train with us at Garage Gym Athlete. We have hard to kill. We have shred, strength, endure, 3 block, no gear. The kettlebell and sandbag are versions of the hard to kill track. We have women's health track. We have all of these things right now. All you need to do is know that each and every single one of our tracks follows the methodology that I just went over. We just have different focuses in the major and the minor. Hard to kill is going to be the most balanced. It has the most balance between all the other stuff and the major and the minor. All the other tracks, like shred, is going to have way more emphasis on body composition, hypertrophy, things like that. Strength is going to have way more emphasis on power development, on strength development. And Jerred is going to have way more oxidative aerobic endurance. You're going to see a lot more in that. But because we know how to build a better athlete and we have really solid programming, you don't have to worry about which track to be on, only which goal you have. Going back to your potential. I really want to squash the FOMO that we have of tracks. Yes, you're going to see the sample programming. Maybe that will help you. But just really think only about you and yourself right now. Ask yourself in your head, what do you want? Do you realistically need to go to 3 block? Because 30 minutes of training per day is the most realistic thing for you and your life. I forgot who posted it in our Facebook group recently. He mentioned that he was going back. He's going from hard to kill to 3 block because he was about to do some really hard work for his PhD. And that was like the most self-aware decision I've ever seen publicly stated. It's like, I know what my life is about to look like, so I'm going to go down to 3 block. And if you're on the webinar, I just appreciated that so much, because just think about that for a second. That's not how the world works. The world is like, well, you better do all the damn work for the PhD and wake up at 3 a.m. to fit in that hard to kill track as well. That's not the decisions people are making, but I'm saying those are the decisions that you need to make. You need to be realistic about what you want and what you can do. We're here to support you with the best programming possible. We have an option for almost everything. But you ultimately need to decide what you want. If you want to be stronger right now, go join the strength track. If you want to be faster in those distance races, 5K, 10K, half marathon, whatever, go to the endurance track. If you just like training and you want to be well balanced, stick with hard to kill. If you feel like you don't want to touch a barbell or a kettlebell for the next 12 weeks, go no gear. These are the things that you need to think about. Our athletes are participating in the most well-rounded, effective, and efficient program on the internet, and I'll challenge anyone to that fact. Toe to toe. Let anybody know. Like, hey, Jerred Moon at Garage Gym Athlete thinks his programming is better than yours. Let anybody know on the face of the planet. I'll challenge them, and I'll show them why their program is not as good as ours. But the program is only effective if you do it, and that's where killing comfort goes in. So I'm going to quickly go over what I want you to do and how to adopt this killing comfort mindset. Let's talk about the path, the real path. How to adopt a killing comfort mindset. The simple, not easy thing to do. This is my only challenge for you today. Just pick one thing that's a little bit hard and do it every day without missing for 30 days. Oh man, Jerred, I came here for the killing comfort part. Like, I thought we were going to get into all this like tips and strategies and secrets. There are no secrets to killing comfort. I have nothing for you. It's hard. But what's hard is different for every person. So I don't know what your hard thing should be. Maybe it's 100 extra push-ups per day. Maybe it's doing the dishes every single night. Maybe it's listening to an audiobook. Maybe it's sticking to our training. Again, this is your potential. This is about what you are going to do to better yourself. So pick one thing that's a little bit hard and do it every day without missing for 30 days. No, we don't program 30 days of workouts in a month. That doesn't mean you can't do an extra zone 2 run here and there. If you're like, hey, next 30 days, I want to try and I want to try and have a perfect 30 days of training. So that means you follow our sessions, and then maybe you just do a walk or a jog in zone 2 those other days for 10 to 15 minutes. So really, you're just some physical activity for 30 days. Pick something that's a little bit hard and do it every day without missing for 30 days. And when I talk about these things, I often go to the lowest common denominator where I'm talking about walks and whatnot. But I know we have a lot of amazing people here. So make your hard thing your hard thing. I don't know what it is for you, but make it your own. It might be a really hard thing, but what it doesn't need to be is the hardcore thing. It doesn't need to be the waking up at 3:41 a.m., okay? It doesn't need to be the hardcore thing. A hard thing for us, as defined in the book, pushing forward against your own desire plus daily over decades. That's it. When I say do the hard things, I'm not saying do the Meet Yourself Saturday every Saturday. I'm not saying train for 2 hours a day. And this is where some confusion has come from the book. People think Killing Comfort is this hardcore. Like, that book is not in the hardcore scene. I'm honestly saying if you need to walk every day, walk. If you need to eat 1 cucumber a day, do that. Your hard is different than my hard, and it's different than my wife's hard. Everyone has a different level of hard thing that they need to put in their life. And so you need to decide what that is, but you need to be super realistic and not try and take someone else's. All right? Like, oh, okay, this guy does this every day. You know what? I'm going to do that every day. Screw that. What's your thing? What's one area of your life you can improve right now if you were to just do it every day for 30 days? So putting it into a fitness example, maybe it is just doing push-ups every day. And here's your current threshold of hard things that you can do. Because if you can just do something, we call it aviate, okay? In the book, I'm going to keep referring to the book. I wrote the book, Killing Comfort. If you haven't read it, go read it. If you think that I'm saying that because that makes me money, the money I make from a book is so nominal, I would just give it away for free if the publishing companies would allow. Just go get the book and read it. Get the audiobook. Just read it. We talk about aviate, all right? So the aviate is just doing something to prove to yourself that you can do it. And I want you to do it for 30 days. The challenge for this webinar is 30 days. In the book, I talk about doing it for 100 days. So that's what I want you to do. Maybe it is just an extra set of push-ups per day. And that's going to compound. You're going to become more and more. And say you're able to stick to that for a month or longer. Your current threshold is going to turn into a new threshold. This is how it works, guys. I'm not just talking about you getting better at push-ups. This is a principle. It's a guiding light. It's something that you're building in yourself. Killing comfort leads to other things. So you're going to bust through that current threshold if you can just do something so stupidly simple, but you do it without missing. You're building a muscle of grit to where you become better. And now you're doing a harder thing. Maybe it was push-ups. Now it's a full training session. Hey, I can do those. I can keep on. You're going to have a new threshold again. Now we're getting closer to your true potential. Maybe this takes several iterations of these 30-day efforts of doing a hard thing, but you keep doing it, and you're getting better and better each and every single time. Even if you fail or you slip or you get pushed back, you get back on the horse, you keep moving forward. That's the only thing that needs to happen. Drop the all or nothing mentality. I say these things all the time, but if you're late to work tomorrow, do you honestly say, screw it, I'm not perfect, never going to work again, I quit work because I was late? No, you show up again because you have to. That's all I'm asking. Try it every day for 30 days. If you screw up, cool, start over, do it again. Just like if you were late to work, you're just going to try again. You're not going to forget and scrap the whole thing because you made a mistake. That's not what you're going to do. You're going to get back on the horse and you're going to keep moving forward. So what happens after this? And you just keep compounding and you keep doing these things over and over again. You're doing a hard thing. Every 30 days, you're improving something. You're getting better. Well, you become a better father, better mother, better parent, better friend, better business owner, better employee, better sister, better brother, better wife, better citizen, better husband. And yes, you will also become a better athlete. But if you know the true mission of my company, it is to build better humans. I do that with the start of a push-up. But my actual goal for you is to be a better father, a better mother, a better friend. That's what I actually want for you. Sure, let's get your fitness increased in the process. But let's change your brain so much, change your level of your ability to kill comfort so well that getting better at anything becomes easy for you. And ultimately, you become the better human that me and my team want you to be, per your own standard, not our standard. And you blow through your true potential by starting with something incredibly and stupid simple. That's where killing comfort starts. It does not start with hardcore. It starts with stupid simple, repeated daily over decades. Gym Athlete Podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.